80. Crystal, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Peck,
Present.
Councilmember Christ. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Hidalgo Faring. Here. Councilmember McCoy. Present. Councilmember Martin.
Here.
Councilmember Rodriguez. Here. Councilmember Yarbrough.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder to the public, in accordance with Council's rules of procedure, the rules for providing public comment are as follows. Only Longmont residents and employees of the City of Longmont may speak during first call, public invited to be heard, and each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. We want your name and address, please. Anyone may speak during final call, public invited to be heard, and on the second reading or public hearing item, only those who want to speak on those items must sign up on the sheet outside in the forum. Members of the audience shall refrain from disruptive, vulgar, or abusive language, applause, heckling, or other actions that interfere with the orderly function of this council. We need approval of the minutes, and council members, we're taking off the September 24th, 2024 minutes tonight, so I need an approval for the September 10th, 2024.
September 10th, 2024 regular session minutes as presented.
Second.
Thank you. That's been made by Councilor McCoy, seconded by Councilor Christ. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. Has everyone?
Councilmember Martin, are you able to vote?
I am. CrimeGov had logged me off.
Okay.
And now I'm logged back on, but I don't think I got the circles. So
Can
here
we
they
just,
come.
can we just get your voice vote, please?
Yeah, I approve.
Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you. We are now at agenda revisions. Crystal, do we have any agenda revisions?
Yes, Mayor. There was a minor amendment to the ordinance for item 9E, and staff is asking council to adopt the substituted ordinance. The ordinance is at your stations, and it's highlighted on page 5. There's a word added.
Okay. And if I'm correct, it is the word for,
It's the word not.
not. Oh,
On page 5.
we're not for. I'm glad I asked you that. So can I have a motion to adopt the amended ordinance? Well, actually, we'll wait until the revisions. I'm sorry, the consent agenda.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Is that okay? Or do we need to adopt it now?
You can just substitute it now, and then that way, if you want to just approve it as part of consent, then you can do it that way.
Thank you. So can I have a motion to adopt ordinance 0/2024, which is 9E on the consent agenda? I see some hesitation there.
I think we just need a motion to substitute this ordinance in place of the ordinance in the packet.
So I move to substitute the revised ordinance.
Second.
Thank you. That's been, that motion was made by Councilor Hidalgo Faring, seconded by Councilor McCoy. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, let's vote. Councilor Martin, do you have your screen up?
Yes, I voted already.
Great, thank you. So that passes unanimously. Thank you. Let me go back. Are there any motions to direct the city manager to add agenda items to future agendas from councilors? Seeing none, we're going to go to the city manager's report.
No report, Mayor, Council.
Thank you. Special reports and presentations. We have a couple of proclamations. The first one is a proclamation supporting the upcoming America 250 Colorado 150 observance in Longmont, Colorado. The year 2026 will mark the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and Colorado's 150th anniversary of statehood. We're getting old. And whereas Longmont, founded in 1871, has contributed significantly to the history of our nation and our state, and whereas in 2016, Congress established the America 250 Commission to encourage observance of the 250 years of our nation's existence, and the Colorado legislature established the America 250 Colorado 150 Commission, whose mission is to celebrate Colorado by acknowledging the completeness of our shared history, honor Colorado's uniqueness, and strive toward a more perfect union. And whereas it is appropriate that Longmont engages fully with our past and looks toward a shared future. And whereas residents are encouraged to create and participate in programs that will commemorate the history of our city, our state, and our nation by planning historical activities, providing opportunities for public discourse, creating new scholarship around Colorado's complete history, creating new educational opportunities, and by seeking opportunities for historic preservation. And now, therefore, I, Joan Peck, Mayor, by virtue of the authority vested in me and the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby encourage residents to create and participate in programs that will commemorate the history of our city, our state, and our nation as part of supporting the upcoming America 250 Colorado 150 observance in Longmont. This is amazing. Is there Eric Mason is there? He's our museum director, and he's going to accept this proclamation.
Mayor Peck and members of council, I'm Eric Mason, director of the Longmont Museum, and we are so honored that you have chosen to begin the process to plan for these wonderful celebrations that will happen in 2026. We're joined tonight by members of the Museum Advisory Board, as well as partners from other area museums. And I would also like to introduce Dr. Stephanie Hartman, who is the co-chair of the America 250 Colorado 150 Commission, to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Eric. Good evening, members of the City Council, Mayor Peck. Thank you so much for having me. I want to start by challenging you with a really cool word. Say it with me. Sesquicentennial. That's a good word, isn't it? That's a great jumble of 250 years as well as 150 years. And because we are in a unique position where Colorado and the United States share the same, basically, birthday. As co-chair of the America 250 Colorado 150 Commission, I'm delighted that the City of Longmont is declaring their intent to participate in the 2026 commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the 150th anniversary of Colorado's entrance into the Union. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for Colorado communities to recognize our shared history and to create moments of unity in our state. A huge thank you to the people of the City of Longmont, to the members of the City Council for your commitment to this commemoration. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Would you like a picture with us?
Yes.
Great.
Definitely.
I don't know if it's gonna have me up at night. How to say it? Oh, this way, so you want to, so we gotta move over down. Turn that facing you. Okay. Yeah, we are. Come close.
exciting. Thank you.
Excuse me. Our next proclamation is a proclamation designating October 3rd. I'm sorry, let me start over. It's a proclamation designating October 1st through the 31st, 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Longmont, Colorado. Whereas domestic and gender-based violence is a pervasive, life-threatening crime affecting millions of individuals across the United States, regardless of age, gender, economic status, race, religion, or education. And whereas the city of Longmont recognizes that domestic violence not only harms individuals, but also affects entire families, workplaces, and communities, and that raising awareness is crucial to ending the cycle of violence. And whereas since its inception, Safe Shelter of St. Vrain Valley is a beacon of hope and safety, providing vital services to survivors of domestic and gender-based violence, elder abuse, teen dating violence, and human trafficking in our community. And whereas Safe Shelter offers essential services such as 24/7 crisis intervention, emergency sheltering, counseling, legal advocacy, and educational programs, ensuring that survivors have the support they need to heal and rebuild their lives. And whereas in 2023 alone, Safe Shelter received over 755 crisis calls that went unmet due to limited resources, highlighting the ongoing need for awareness, support, and resources in the fight against domestic violence, and works closely with the city departments, a network of nonprofit organizations, local businesses, and others to sustain a wide scope of client and funding resources. And whereas during the month of October, the City of Longmont encourages all residents to learn about domestic violence, support survivors, and work together with Safe Shelter of St. Vrain Valley to create a community where every individual lives free from fear, violence, and abuse. Now therefore, I, Joan Peck, Mayor, by virtue of the authority vested in me and the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Longmont, Colorado, and in doing so, recognize Safe Shelter of St. Vrain Valley for their outstanding and unwavering commitment to serving our community for the past 46 years. This is a great proclamation to bring awareness. And I would like to have Nancy Herbert, the interim executive director of St. Vrain Valley, and Jewel Holmes, president and board of directors, to accept the proclamation and say a few words.
It's been a long time since I've been up here.
Yeah.
Do I press any?
You're fine. Just
I'm
pull
good.
the microphone down a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor Peck, and thank you, honorable council members. We really appreciate this opportunity, this wonderful proclamation. We have, as the proclamation declares, been here for 46 years, so we are an integral part of this community. We are strong, we are growing every day. We have fabulous services. We do serve a lot in need in our own community, and we also network with other communities so that we can do exchanges so that the individuals seeking help will be as safe as they can be. I also wanted to give a little shout out to our annual fundraiser that we have every year. I believe each of you have an invitation that I sent to you. I hope you'll be able to attend and join us. It's called Our Heart Lives On, Our Legacy Continues, and it is on October 24th. And it's here at the Shoup Homestead. This year we are featuring a very special guest. A featured speaker is Denise Brown. Denise is the sister of Nicole Brown Simpson. You remember the O.J. Simpson case. So this is, Denise is the sister of Nicole. And since the incident, and years after, it's been 30 years now, she has gone nationwide carrying the message of awareness of domestic violence and teaching about power and control. So she will be our speaker at our event. We invite you to come, listen to that, come enjoy some great food that we're having. And of course, there's always auctions involved for those of you that would like to add to the experience. I'd like to introduce some board members that are with us. As you said, we have our board president, Jill, is here with us tonight, Jill Holmes. Valerie Scott, who is from the city, wonderful. So she's familiar to you already. And then we have Frances Melendez Chavez, who is also with us as well. So we thank you very much for the proclamation. Did you have any questions for us, or is there anything any of you would like to add?
I just want to know if you want a picture with us.
Oh, well, that'd be great. Thank you.
Oh, Councilor
not?
Yarbrough.
I just want to say thank you for all the work that you do. And myself have been a victim of domestic violence, so I know how important it is to be able to have resources where you reside, to know that you will be taken care of until you are able to transition into a new life or the next chapter in your life, and especially those with kids. It's really difficult and challenging. So thank you, because I know sometimes it's hard to go home and think about all those people that you serve and hoping and believing that they'll be okay when they leave, you know, and that you know that you provide the best services for them, and that's all you can do. And knowing that the resources within our city are available too. So I just really want to say thank you for doing this work, staying in there. And I know it gets tough sometimes, because not knowing what may happen to them once they leave your doors. And I know how hard that is. So, but thank you for planting the seed, watering it, and bringing some sunshine. That's all I want to say.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That is very important to us to hear. And there is life after domestic violence, and that's something that people need to understand and celebrate. And to point out that we also are fully capable of taking family pets into the shelter now as well.
Oh, that is really important.
Yes, it's really important
Thank you.
because oftentimes, well, they're part of the family, right? And then they're left, and they're also used as some kind of bargaining tool or even for threats. And so it's super important that we have that available. So it's good for our community to know that as well.
Yes, it is, because if someone is seeking help in the thought of having to leave their pet, which may be the only comfort they get from home, make them hesitant to reach out. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Picture time.
Okay. And don't forget the event. And we only have, by the way, 25 tickets left, so.
Oh,
So rush to the door.
rush to the door. We're now at public invited to be heard. And I want to remind those on the list that we would like you to give your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. The first one is Robert Morris.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Robert Morris, 170 South Pratt Parkway. I was coming today. I'll be super brief. I was coming today on behalf of the NAACP of Boulder County to invite everyone to the. I don't know if everyone knows, but there was a section of highway in Boulder County that was named after Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And they will be having a ceremony, a highway designation ceremony, celebrating that on October the 24th at the Dairy Center for the Arts in Boulder. So I just wanted to invite everyone out to that. And there's a email flyer if anyone wants it that I can send to them if you would like that. But that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Robert Morris. Robert, can you just send that to all of us and they can either go or delete it?
Yeah, I'll send it.
Thank you. Al Manley.
Mayor Peck and City Council, good evening. Al Manley, 940 Rangeview Lane, Longmont, 80501. Just a few comments here regarding the airport. I do not see any urgency from the City Council to address the problem that arose after the September 10th council meeting. The recent FAA letter stated September 17th expressing the FAA's view that a city-approved parcel near the airport is also incompatible with the airport. What is the city's plan to address the FAA's letter from September 17th? The developer appears to be proceeding with the current plan. Do they expect the city to run the risk of an FAA funding cutoff? Is that the approach the City Council intends to take? In the absence of the FAA funding for the airport, how does the city intend to finance the operation and maintenance of the airport over the remaining 20 years of their grant obligations? Can the city require the developer to warrant that their development will not cause the withdrawal of FAA funding? Can financial penalties be imposed on the developer if they precipitate with this FAA funding problem? Does the city realize that the loss of FAA funding is the same as the city's decision to close the airport? How will the city deal with the many land leases that extend well beyond that 20-year horizon? And does the city manager and the city attorney recognize that this issue is coming to a head before the end of this calendar year? What is their advice to the City Council on this issue? Just one more thing regarding airports. With the situation that happened in Asheville, North Carolina last week, I think that they would be in much dire circumstances if they didn't have small airports to help with their recoveries and rescues. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. John Grunsfeld.
Council, John Grunsfeld, 229 Airport Road. Al has covered a number of the things that I wanted to bring up. I do appreciate the council's attention to the airport and all of the time that is being invested to discuss this. But there really is a sense of urgency, and I think the more recent FAA letter regarding the second lot, should be an additional wake-up call. In addition, of course, as was brought up a month ago, the Idaho case, Burley, Idaho, that says if it's widely known that there's a safety issue and the development proceeds, the city is actually liable then in the event of any accidents. Recently, a number of us have made comments for an additional property underneath the paddle that's going through the planning department. Hopefully you know that, but it's sort of with residential that kind of highlights that I think there's a big disconnect between the planning department and what is being revealed as the FAA's opinion and the pilot community's opinion and the true risk to public safety. On Hurricane Helene, I've been following that as well, and it really is incredibly impressive the way that general aviation airports, small airports just like Longmont, have answered the call for delivery of medicines, critical supplies, delivery of rescuers, flying FEMA officials around, and they have become the lifeline because so many roads, bridges, and structures have been washed out. Really, it's a critical function, and also medical evacuations. So I would like to encourage the Honorable Harold Dominguez and our Honorable City Attorney to get on the ball. And, perhaps you are, but, we'd like to know a little bit more about how that's proceeding, because we're really interested in having a safe and productive airport. Envision Longmont really set us up by making a mistake and suggesting that area can be rezoned for significant development, including high-density residential. I think the City Council, Envision Longmont is a recommendation. It was a study. It's almost a decade old now. So I really think we ought to take another look at this area, actually at both ends of the airport, but this one in particular. And the City Council, working with city staff, I think can fix this. So thank you very much. We're more than interested in helping if there's any opportunity for us to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Seeing no one else on the list, I'm going to close first call public invited to be heard. We're now at the consent agenda, an introduction and reading by title of first reading ordinances. Crystal, would you read the items into the record?
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
consent agenda.
The second reading and public hearing for all ordinances introduced on this consent agenda will be held on October 22nd, 2024. Item 9A is ordinance 2024-70, a bill for an ordinance making additional appropriations for expenses and liabilities of the City of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2024. Item 9B is ordinance 2024-71, a bill for an ordinance amending Section 3.04.885 of the Longmont Municipal Code, adopting amendments to the City of Longmont Old Hire Police Pension Plan and Old Hire Fire Pension Plan. Item 9C1 is ordinance 2024-72, a bill for an ordinance fixing and levying taxes upon the real and personal property within the City of Longmont for the year 2024 to pay budgeted city expenses for the 2025 fiscal year. Item 9C2 is ordinance 2024-73, a bill for an ordinance fixing and levying taxes upon the real and personal property within the Longmont Downtown Development District for the year 2024 to pay budgeted expenses of the Longmont Downtown Development Authority for the 2025 fiscal year. Item 9C3 is ordinance 2024-74, a bill for an ordinance adopting the budget for the City of Longmont for the year 2025. Item 9C4 is ordinance 2024-75, a bill for an ordinance making appropriations for the expenses and liabilities of the City of Longmont for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2025. Item 9D, ordinance 2024-76, a bill for an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Longmont Municipal Code on Public Services, Water Utility, and Wells rates. Item 9E is ordinance 2024-77, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 11 of the Longmont Municipal Code concerning utilizing an automated vehicle identification system. Item 9F is Resolution 2024-67, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving the intergovernmental agreement between the city and the Longmont Housing Authority for community development block grant funding for door replacement at the Suites Apartments. Item 9G is Resolution 2024-68, a resolution of the Longmont City Council approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Longmont and the Colorado Department of Transportation for additional federal funding for the Kaufman Street Mobility Improvements Project. Item 9H is approve one capital improvement program amendment. And that is all.
Thank you. I see Councilor Chris would like to pull an item.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. I'd like to pull both D and E.
Would you mind moving the consent agenda then?
I will move the consent agenda minus D and E.
It's been moved by Councilor Chris to move the consent agenda minus items 9D and 9E, seconded by Councilor McCoy. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. And that passes unanimously. It looks like we're at the ordinances on second reading and public hearings on any matter now. The first one is 2024-68. This is a bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the vacation of a 20-foot wide mutual access easement and a sanitary sewer easement generally located southwest of the intersection of Highway 66 and Alpine Street. Are there any questions from council on this item? I'm going to pull up my Zoom again and make sure I can see Councilor Martin. So seeing none, I would like to open the public hearing on 2024-68. Is there anyone in the audience here who would like to address this bill? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing on item 2024-68 and ask for a vote, a motion, I mean.
Ordinance 10A-2468.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor McCoy, seconded by Councilor Christ. Let's vote. It disappeared, Crystal. And that passes unanimously. The second one is 2024-69. This is a bill for an ordinance conditionally approving the vacation of a 25-foot wide drainage easement generally located south of Great Western Drive and west of Clara Court in the Sugar Mill Paired Homes development. Are there any questions from council on this bill? Seeing none, I will open up the public hearing on 2024-69. Is there anyone here that would like to address this bill? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
I move ordinance 2024-69.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Chris, seconded by Councilor McCoy to pass 2024-69. Let's vote. And that passes unanimously. That is the last one we have on our second reading. So we're going right to the items removed from the consent agenda. Councilor Christ.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first is 2024-76, a bill for an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Longmont Municipal Code on Public Service Water Utility and Wells Rate. My recollection from September 3rd was that we chose 3 years and also asked for an annual review. And so I would like to add to the ordinance an annual review during budget time to ensure the rates are appropriate to our goals. I also just want to ask a few questions about the rates, how they were determined.
Good evening, Mayor Pack and Councilmember Christ. Lance Smith and I are here. I'm Becky Doyle, Chief Strategic Integration Officer. Happy to answer some questions. I might look for some help from legal about how we would go about incorporating that annual review. It's something we do as part of the budget process regardless.
Okay.
I'm not sure that it's something that we need to incorporate into the ordinance necessarily.
Okay. Well, good. I'm just looking at page 64, I think it is. I'm looking at the section 14.4.70 for single family and duplex. I notice but where we're ending at 2024 and the rates that you're carrying over for 2025 then go up about 6%. But then for 26, it's 9.5, and for 27, it's 9.3. So I just wondered why that wasn't more standardized, like a 6% each year.
So the rates are determined each year, a separate, essentially, cost of service is done. So depending on what expenses we're going to be in each of the next 3 years, that would affect the amount of the rate increase.
Okay. But then when I look at 14,400, it starts at 6% and then goes to 9.3, then goes down to 9. So it wasn't standard between those two categories, which is between commercial and residential.
Yes, that's true. So this is a cost of service study. So each of the rate classes have different water demands, and so costs are allocated to each of them differently. So that's why there's some variation between rate classes.
Because commercial maybe uses a different level of water and, demands more service.
Yes, and they use much less of the distribution system. So when you're allocating costs, you reflect what they're using, each cost.
Okay. And then I was kind of surprised by the meter rate change also, the percentage. I'm just going to throw that out.
So the service charge is intended to reflect some of the basic costs of providing the service. And so that was increased fairly significantly this time, I think more than 9%.
Yeah, for 2025. Is that because of all the new meters, or why particularly in 2025?
Well,
26 and 27 are about 10% more than the year before.
right. So, 2025, it just reflected some of the inflation we'd already realized, and the costs that we're seeing are higher.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know you installed a lot of new meters, so.
We have, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, we do have something good going for us in that the Fed lowered interest rates, and it looks like the cost for bonds will be going down, which will benefit. We should be able to get more bond money. So, fingers crossed. They're saying they may lower rates again. So, hopefully that'll be a good timing for the city. So, all right. So, if we, Mr. May, if you could weigh in, do we need to add in an annual review to the ordinance, or?
Mayor and Council, Eugene May, City Attorney. Of course, council can do what it would like with ordinances. From a legal perspective, ordinances are effectively implementing the rates. Mm-hmm. There's lots of council direction that goes on outside of ordinances. You direct this guy to do things annually or other periodic reviews. I mean, from the city attorney's perspective, I'd rather not have direction like that in ordinances, which are really about implementing laws.
And
Yeah, do you think we need a motion for an annual review? Okay. Yeah. All right, well, other than that, I'm happy with the ordinance. I would like an annual review. Perhaps we just put it on our calendar to remind us during the budget process. And remind me also, Becky, in 2025, and Lance, is it 2025 when you're actually doing your full evaluation?
So beginning in 2025, we're going to kick off the master plan study. That typically takes 12 to 18 months.
And so by 26, we'll have the results of that, possibly. Okay. All right. So I will move ordinance 2024-76 as written.
Second?
So that's been moved by Councilor Christ, seconded by Councilor McCoy. Let's vote. Before you go to your next one, it looks like our city manager has input.
Yeah, so Mayor Council, you did direct us in the last discussion to have an annual review of this. And so it was a little bit different this year because the water rates were running parallel with the budget. Since we won't be in a rate increase next year, it'll be part of the budget review. But this year it was different because we were doing the rate work ahead of and during the budget. But it'll be part of that process.
So we already directed you last year.
You did, oh no, you directed us when you moved this forward
Oh, okay.
to adopt, you directed us to do the annual evaluation.
Okay.
So that is existing direction that we have. It will be in the budget process.
Thanks for that reminder.
And will the master plan also then be part of the budget process, or will it be a separate item?
That'll be separate because that takes longer. So, you know, say if it takes 16 to 18 months, we will be updating you as we move through the process when there's points that we need to update you. But in terms of bringing the final master plan, that'll be in 26.
The motion to adopt 2024-76 passed unanimously.
All right, moving on to 9E, which is 2024-77, a bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 11 of the Longmont Municipal Code concerning utilizing an automated vehicle identification system. And I think I saw Police Chief Setter here. I actually just have a few questions about this, and they were questions from the public that I didn't have answers to, so.
Hello. Jeff Satter. It's good to see you guys.
Good to see you. What happens if you have unregistered vehicles that are caught on, this automated system?
I don't know if there's a software at this point, but under this ordinance, we could potentially use that to read a plate, get an expiration date, and send them a ticket. Right now, there's no fines in there, but it does talk about other traffic ordinances. But I don't think they have a fine schedule right now.
Okay.
They've only done speeding and red light.
If you have a red light infraction or speeding and you capture the plate, but it isn't necessarily registered or it doesn't have a live registration, you can still send to the last address that you have?
So there's a couple systems out there. So the plate that's registered to the car would be the address that we would have. The system verifies that the plate matches the car, so we don't have misuse of plates or sending it to the wrong person. Once that's confirmed, then it gets verified again through the police department. And at that point, the tickets would be mailed out.
Great. Now, how is it that 17th Avenue didn't make the cut?
Well, if I could bring up a slide, I would like to make one change in council communication. I had the funds would go to the public safety fund. I would like, there was two forms, and one was public safety, one was general fund. We'd like to put those funds into the general fund. And then Cammie Edson just got me some paperwork last week, and so I have some side streets that I would like to add to the ordinance for consideration under the automated safety corridors.
So 17th, so on page 5, pursuant, starts at line 8, the city identifies and authorizes the following as automated vehicle identification system corridors. So number 1 is Main Street or Highway 287 within the city of Longmont's jurisdiction. So that is basically the corridor from Pike to 66, correct?
Yes, correct.
So anything in that corridor?
Which would include
So you mean where
17th and Main.
17th intersects with those
Yes.
Correct.
arterials?
And then Cammie asked me to add some east-west streets, and 17th is one of those streets. I've got a heat map up here. It's only showing on this. Can you guys see that? Heat map?
Oh, let me look this up. Ah,
So those are all our high crash intersections, and it probably won't surprise you, those are all our major streets and major thoroughfares.
I don't think we're sharing. Is it
it
up?
is.
No, with Marcia.
It's not.
It's not on Zoom.
Yeah. Hmm. Bringing it up to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that being shared now?
Yes.
So as you can see, all the dots are high crash intersections. And the additional streets that Kemi Edson, who is our Vision Zero coordinator, asked me to add include 17th Avenue, Mountain View Avenue, 11th Avenue, 9th Avenue, 3rd Avenue, Pike Road, 21st Avenue, and 23rd Avenue. And those, as you'll notice in the diagram, correspond with all the hot spots on that map, including, as a city manager was stating, that we also get with the north-south streets, we get those same intersections.
So, Mayor and Council, if you're okay with us adding that for second reading, you can direct us to add that for the second reading and move the ordinance as presented tonight, and we'll just bring it updated.
Okay. That sounds good. So one other question. Well, I actually have two now because you brought up something. Vehicles waiting to turn left, they get caught on the red. And I realize this is kind of a push-pull in that people are sliding through on the red, and that's why you get, or on the orange, yellow,
Yes.
red, and that's why you get caught turning on the red.
Yes, so from my understanding, there's several companies, and we haven't chosen any companies yet. But from my understanding, all these red light cameras also have speed. So they know, all right, this car was going 2 miles an hour when they made their turn. And they'll have a photograph of it maybe sitting past the stop line or behind the stop line. If they're behind the stop line, they shouldn't be going. But if they're out in the intersection, they're allowed to be in the intersection and make their turn. So there would be photo evidence and speed evidence of that versus a car going through at 35 miles an hour. We're going to have the speed. We're going to have where it's positioned behind the stop line. And those would be the ones that get tickets. And again, it has to be verified.
So the car going through on red would be ticketed, but the one waiting to clear the intersection,
Correct.
not likely.
Based on visual evidence. Now, if they blew it from the left turn lane and made a turn, that could change things, but yes.
Yeah. So to add on to that, we're seeing more incidents of cars turning left on the green before the oncoming traffic can get through. I know that's something that happens in the East Coast, but isn't something that is done here and is legal here. And I don't know if that's going to help with this. Maybe one thing at a time.
Yeah, we have some intersections that only turn green and then turn red and you can't turn anymore. Then we have some that will go to a flashing yellow. Those are lower volume intersections. And then I haven't seen that a lot, but I do see people do that occasionally. They'll try to race out in front of all the traffic. I don't know how many crashes we have for that. That's usually not our major crashes are red lights and kind of speed related, which the speed enforcement will help with that.
Okay. So now for my last question, because you brought this up, you're not going to put, you're not going to fund the public safety fund with revenues for that. You're going to put it into the general fund.
General fund, yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
And so I was a little bit excited to see that it was going into the public safety fund actually, but then realized that you might, have a lot of money in there all of a sudden.
Yeah,
What's your thinking in terms of moving it to general?
While it's in the general fund, we're going to probably buy the equipment from the general fund. And ultimately, the decisions on budgeting and funding different projects, I would hope that could help support some of the police projects that from the general fund.
So a few things we were looking at. One, we've talked to council about the current status of the public safety fund in the building. And so what we were really looking at is we had the ability to fund it out of the general fund. We actually have some grant dollars coming in and some transportation safety dollars that were also allocated that we can utilize. So what that lets us do is not draw down on the public safety fund, but bring this in. And then obviously as we're going through the budget process and we're looking at the needs globally, all of that will be taken into consideration. But it was, in my mind, making the decision on transportation, general fund, public improvement fund. It relieved the burden on the public safety fund, which is taxed when we look at what we're putting in for the building.
Yes. Yeah. As I was looking at the budget ordinances, I saw a comment that Mr. Golden made about, going forward, we really need more funding for the public safety fund.
Yep.
And public safety is funded generally through sales tax. So one of the ways we can support our public safety is to buy locally. Correct. Yeah. But also this kind of program, once the equipment is purchased, then could also augment that fund.
Yeah, one of the things we were thinking, or that I was thinking about in this, is what we don't know is what the ongoing revenue is going to be like. Because what we hope, we had this conversation in our Longmont Economic Development Partnership meeting. The decision to do this is really based on safety and the frequency that we're seeing people run red lights and speed in our community. What we would hope is that it actually reduces the number of times that occurs, which then obviously would have a commensurate reduction in revenue. And so that was also part of it, is you don't want to become reliant on something that has the potential to go down over time
I agree.
to that level.
Yeah,
It's
we'd like
gonna
to see
spike and
we'd like to see zero tickets.
Yeah,
on
right.
this.
Yeah. And that's the easy part, right? Drive the speed limit. You don't have to worry. Stop for your stoplights. You don't have to worry.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, thank you for answering those questions for
You're
the public and for me.
Thank you.
I would like to move ordinance 2024-77.
Seconded.
Thank you. This ordinance was moved by Councilor Chris, seconded by Councilor McCoy. Let's vote.
Update. Thank you, guys. Thanks.
But yes.
I have something to talk about. Do I get this out? Thank you. That passes. That ordinance passes unanimously. We're now at our general business section, and this is a request for City Council to refer the Longmont Gateway Northwest annexation into the annexation review process. And Jennifer Hewitt Apperson, the senior planner, will present this.
Good evening, Mayor Peck, members of the council. So as Mayor Peck noted, this is an annexation referral for a proposed development known as Longmont Gateway Northwest. This is not a public hearing to approve an annexation. Rather, the question before council is whether the proposed development should proceed to the full annexation process. So the subject property consists of approximately 26 acres on the north side of the Longmont planning area, particularly northwest of the intersection of Park Ridge and Highway 287, just northwest of the Walmart. The applicant is requesting a zoning of residential mixed neighborhood to allow for a mixture of residential types as part of the proposed annexation. So just as a note, there was a typo in the council comm. Just I want to clarify that the property in question is on the west side of 287. There is another property that is part of a larger development proposal on the east side of 287, and that property is already part of the city of Longmont. So they are looking, the applicant is looking at essentially a master plan integrated development with one side that we were talking about this evening, the west side of the property, which is not yet annexed. Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry, I rearranged some slides here. So the subject property is currently designated single-family neighborhood on Envision Longmont, and a comprehensive plan amendment to mixed neighborhood would be required as part of this proposed annexation in order to accommodate the proposed zoning of residential mixed neighborhood. As noted in the council packet, this property was previously the subject of an annexation referral discussed by City Council in May of 2021. At that time, a single-family development was proposed. While council did vote to refer this proposal to the full process, members at the time did express that they would prefer to see a higher density development at this particular location. Ultimately, that project did not move forward, and now there is a higher density project under consideration. So one thing I would like to point out, as indicated on this map, is that most of the land to the north of this property up to the boundary of the Longmont planning area is permanently protected open space that is either owned outright by Boulder County or is otherwise encumbered by permanent conservation easements of some sort. So basically everything that's green on this map is some form of permanently protected open space that is not under consideration for development at any point in the future. It has those encumbrances. The blue line, basically Vermilion Road, that is the northernmost boundary of the Longmont planning area. So that is our hard stop on where we can develop an annex into the city of Longmont. And given that there's a large chunk of land north of the subject property that is already designated for open space, basically we can't really get to that northernmost boundary. So this is basically the northern limit of where annexation can happen. So we don't have a lot of space left in Longmont for annexation. It's a big challenge for us. So the applicant will discuss the concept plan in more detail momentarily. I just want to again note that the proposed annexation area and development are part of a larger project. You'll see this area on the east side of 287, immediately north of the Walmart, is already part of the city. It is proposed for higher density residential. There is a proposed RTD parking site as well in this area, and there would be commercial as part of that. I'm just noting that that is not part of this project, but it is, or part of the annexation, but it is part of the larger concept for this area. Under the currently proposed concept plan for the proposed annexation, higher density residential, probably some attached type projects, again, the applicant will talk a little bit more about this momentarily, would be nearest to 287. Lower density residential types would be on the west side of the property, closer to the existing single family neighborhoods. So the property does meet the statutory requirements for annexation eligibility. It's within the Longmont planning area, and more than 1/6 of the property boundary is contiguous to the city of Longmont. Specifically, about 29% of the boundary is contiguous, so it more than meets the annexation requirements. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the applicant to talk a little bit more in detail about this, as soon as I can get this up and going again. Hold on. Thank you, Dallas.
I'm glad there's someone else to do that.
Dallas keeps us in line and functioning well.
Do what I can. All right, you should be good.
Great, and just progress with the right click.
Yep. Keyboard and mouse. Yep, keyboard and mouse.
Keyboard or mouse, perfect. Thank you very much. My name is Candace Burnett, and I'm with Kimley Horn, and I'm representing the client or the applicant. And as our lovely staff planner has mentioned and provided the introduction for the project, we're here for the annexation referral for this project.
So the client is the, sorry, I need my glasses so I can read, as NLA Investors. And we're here tonight just to give you a little bit more background about the project and provide a little bit context for this master concept plan. But generally, the project, as described, is 26 acres in size. And we believe that it really does meet the intent of your Envision Longmont plan because it does provide this housing opportunity I think that the city is really looking for in providing this missing middle housing intention and also creating an opportunity for economic opportunity and a contribution towards the city. And so as we describe, it really does provide an opportunity for meeting this intention of your growth plan. It does provide this greater opportunity for density, which I think we heard, in watching some of the minutes from the past council meetings, while still providing a sensitive opportunity for that western edge of existing residential, where there's that existing community and neighborhood. And so we really wanted to take an opportunity to provide a concept plan that is generally sensitive to where those existing neighbors are, providing a strategy to create that existing buffer edge so that we do provide really a strategic opportunity to be a good neighbor, but then create the type of density that the city's looking for, and also create an overall concept plan that creates those opportunities for walkability, connection to existing transit opportunities and future growth of transit opportunities, and also capitalize on some of the existing commercial opportunities that are there, and also grow some of the commercial that could also occur on the adjacent site. So really, when we looked at those opportunities, we looked at the overall concept for, I think, what was described as the master concept plan. And so we looked at how do we create the opportunity for this annexation referral. So looking at the existing conditions, the existing condition is vacant land, and it's currently zoned on the Boulder County zoning map as agricultural. But in your Envision Longmont land use designation, it is single-family neighborhood, which generally provides for single-family neighborhood, which is a detached product of 1 to 8 dwelling units an acre. And with the understanding that really doesn't meet the intent of what you look for growth opportunities, finding an opportunity to provide a little bit higher density to create that missing middle housing product type, we looked at what the appropriate zoning designation may be for this site. So with that in mind, the appropriate zoning designation that we were looking for is a mixed housing neighborhood, which is the residential mixed neighborhood, which is the proposed zoning and land use designation, which would offer a blended density that we are looking at creating, which is a 6 to 18 units across the site, which would allow like a single family home detached product, which would be sensitive to that edge condition, but then would also allow a higher density product type like a duplex or triplex, and even up to an apartment complex or multifamily building unit, depending on the appropriate style of housing adjacent to 287. With that in mind, we developed a master concept plan, and I know the project tonight is the annexation referral, which is really looking at the west side of 287. But we did look at it as an overall concept because the goal is to develop both sides. Also, it is dependent on what happens on the east side of the street as well, because a lot of it takes part in how the utilities connect, how the transition for transportation opportunities, the walkability. And so we really had to look at it as an overall site condition as well in terms of how you develop the entire location, which is about 50 acres. And so one of the things we did look at is, again, that sensitivity to that western edge condition along the existing neighborhood to the west, creating an opportunity for more of a single-family condition, like that single-family neighborhood, which exists there on that western edge, transitioning to a higher and higher density as you get closer to 287, and then doing a kind of a blended density rate across the site, but also providing some of those community amenities that I think people expect, like pocket parks, some sort of community facility attached to the higher density residential unit, and then also creating opportunities for water retention and some of the infrastructure needs that the project will need. Also creating some of the connections to the project site so that it can help capitalize on some of the existing transit opportunities, and then the walkability to some of the commercial opportunities as well. And so therefore, we feel that the project does meet a lot of the goals of your Envision Longmont, which is really the intent of this project as well. Therefore, with that in mind, we really looked at this does create a place for people. It expands those housing opportunities. It creates a mixture of housing opportunities, so it's not just a one-size-fits-all, but it really does meet a lot of those goals in creating different types of housing, which will create a different type of unit type with different opportunities for different price points as well. And then it'll also create an opportunity for multimodal transportation options as well. And we really do feel that it meets the intent of your economic sustainability as well. Additionally, the project meets that goal for meeting some of those higher density needs, which is more in that 200 units for the site that has been identified. So it's more in the density range of the 12 to 25 units, depending on where it lands on the site. Again, keeping in mind that we're trying to be sensitive to that western edge, while still providing for the needed dedication of open space or parklets, really designated for the community that is within that neighborhood, as well as creating opportunities for detention and water storage, and then also appropriate transitions throughout the project site. Therefore, we're here to answer any questions, the entire project team, including the applicant. And so if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those at this time.
Thank you for this presentation. Actually, I have one question and some suggestions, because I know that we're not going to see this unless it's appealed after the development goes through planning and zoning. So, first of all, I want to know where you're.
This will come back.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's an annexation.
Yeah, the annexation part. Well,
yes.
so just out of curiosity, where's the corporate office for your LLC or the owner? Are they local?
They are.
Okay. Thank you. And then I want to suggest that they're both for sale as well as rental within the development. And because I just came from a huge child care summit, I would be very interested and to have at least a conversation about putting a child care center within the development, since you're just starting.
Okay.
So,
take that into
thank you.
consideration. Thank you.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. For the sake of history, I'm not exactly sure which council members were on at the last time we heard about this property, but not too many of us. I know that former council member Waters was one, council member Martin, and myself were also currently were some of the proponents for increasing the density, right? So my question is that I think, well, first I'll just say that, first of all, I think that obviously, I think we were heard in a way with this proposal that's in front of us today. And I actually really believe that a lot of consideration was taken into account for the unincorporated single-family detached home neighborhood to the west and south. And so I've always been a strong proponent for transition for density. Maybe, and you say small lot, single-family detached in the concept plan, I believe. And that seems to be an appropriate transition to what would be a higher density usage as you move towards the to 287. So I guess my question is that with mixed neighborhood, the cap is, from what I'm reading, 18 units per acre. And that's what I heard was 25. Just what I'm reading in the council comments says a cap of 18. So I'd like clarification on that.
So yes, so the density range for a residential mixed neighborhood is 6 to 18 units per acre. That's something we would discuss with the applicant team as part of the annexation process in terms of, because it sounds like they are looking at averaging the density across the entire site. So we would just need to take a look at whether that's an acceptable approach. So
okay, is that something we have not enumerated in our land development code at this time? You can take an average.
depends on how it depends on how we're talking about it. So I think doing an average across the entire site is likely an acceptable strategy, but that's something that we would need to look at and discuss further. And I will defer to Grant if he has a different interpretation than I do.
Okay, well, I'll be interested to hear how those conversations go. And because my next question is going to be, when we're talking about a multifamily complex at 18 units per acre, obviously we know that's optimal, not including landscaping, hard space as far as parking and things like that, which we know that we've already adjusted here at the City Council. And so I didn't know what a multifamily unit development would look like at 18 units per acre. But if you're possibly thinking about an average concept, I'll be interested to hear about it. Outside of that, like I said, this really is hitting a lot more towards what we were looking for in 2021, I believe it was, when it was last in front of us. And so I'm very happy with that. And outside of that, I think, obviously, statutorily speaking, it meets requirements for annexation purposes. Thank you.
Councilor Yarbrough.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. I just want to say I appreciate that you all took in consideration of what was said in the past and exactly what my co-counselor was. I wasn't here in 2021, but I read through the communications and everything, and for you all to take in consideration of what was said back then, and also learning that you also watched some of the minutes. That's very important. So I also will have to echo what Mayor Peck had mentioned, because I was thinking the exact same thing. Childcare will be beautiful, wonderful, and even a library will be nice over in that area. I mean, if we don't ask, we may not get. If we ask, we may get. So you never know. But childcare would be perfect. You're talking 200 or 250 units, you said. That's a lot of people. So it would be nice to have a daycare over there. And then also, like I said, even a library, right? Why not? It's America. So, yeah, thank you very much, and I appreciate your presentation and everything in the comps. And I thank you for clarifying, Jennifer, because I thought the annexation was from the east and the west side of 287, so thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
And I'm very happy about the open space above, so we know where our city is going to end. Councilor McCoy.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. My concern is this. In the name of this development, it's the Gateway, Longmont Gateway North. There's got to be something special there. The way and we understand that the higher density is going to be closer to 287 Main Street. There's got to be, not that, it's one thing to be in the downtown area where we have taller buildings and stuff like that. We know, because that's where we're trying to put more density with the our restaurants and other things like that, and the walkability. But now this is the last hurrah on that end of town. We're not going any further north at that point. It's gotta be something special. It just can't be just another apartment complex. It's got to have this character that is unique.
Sure.
Because that's going to be our entrance for a heck of a long time. So I'm just trying to stress to you the creativity of the architecture has to be something that is a entrance way to our community. Thank you.
Councilor Christ.
Well, first, let me say I commend you for finding 2 entrance and exit points that are not on 287. and working that around. That looks like it's very workable. Now, do I understand correctly that these are for sale units, most of them?
It hasn't been 100% determined, so it could be a combination. So they could be for sale, they could be for rent. So the higher density could be for rent, and then the internal product could be for sale. So it could be recorded in a different variety of maps.
Okay. Now, just to piggyback off what my other counselors have said, yes, I think that commercial area, I mean, this area has a lot to offer for what we're looking for. It has shopping available, it has transportation available. It would be nice to have childcare and a library because it's so hard with it being on 287 and having to cross 66 to get down to city services. But also, thank you for that aesthetic of it's the gateway. More so than, just a fabulous architectural look is very desirable, but also it would be nice to have it be a showpiece of integrated neighborhood, which is what we want Longmont to be. So I encourage you to add attainable and maybe some affordable, but particularly attainable when you're saying that missing middle. That's what we're looking for. I think that's all I had. Everybody else covered the topic. Thank you for your presentation, and we're walking away with a wish list from us. So, yeah.
As you can see, we're okay with development. City manager, it looks like you went away in on this.
Well, no, I just wanted to say, so they're coming in and they're obviously looking at what we have in play and the design standards in play. In a few weeks, we're going to bring new design standards that's looking at more of the urban-based design that we've been talking about in terms of these types of projects. So, no, if council directs us to continue moving forward and bring those new design standards in, that could be an interplay in some of these projects.
Yeah, you can drive around Longmont and see where we are. I would suggest going to Prospect if you're looking for some design standards. So, Councilor Yarbrough. No, Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. As such, I move that we refer the Longmont Gateway Northwest annexation into the annexation review process.
Second.
Thank you, Marcia. So that's been moved that we move this Longmont Gateway Northwest project into the annexation referral process. And that was made by Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Martin. Let's vote. That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We are at the last part of our meeting, and final call, public invited to be heard. Is there anyone in the public? You do not need to sign up for this. If you would like to address us, now's your chance. Seeing no one, I'm going to close final call, public invited to be heard, and we're going on to mayor and council comments. Are there any comments from councilors? Councilor Hidalgo-Ferring.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to let council know, last Friday I attended the PRPA tour of the Rawhide facility. And for anyone who has not had a chance to tour it yet, it was very good. It was very informative. I learned a lot about how, what is that, the sausage gets made kind of thing. And so it was very helpful. And I think, so these tours are open to the public as well. So any member of the public who wants to have a thorough understanding of where our energy comes from, how it's distributed, that would be it's a phenomenal opportunity. So I wanted to throw that out there for council colleagues and as well as the public. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone else? Seeing no one? I did attend the Child Care Summit last week, which was sponsored by the County of Boulder, and it was very informative. Our past elected official, Tim Waters, was on the panel, and he did a good job as you can see, we're really trying to get childcare as a focus. As we need childcare, it's too expensive for families. So I just want you to know that that's on our radar as a county, as a nation, and why I asked for this development too. If you're bringing in all those children, we need help with the daycare. So that was very amazing. And then there was a tea yesterday at the Callahan House, and it was wonderful. The Callahan House, if you haven't been there, you should really go see and hear the history of that. If it hadn't been for Mr. Callahan kind of being a mentor to J.C. Penney's, we wouldn't have had the J.C. Penney store here, which was, well, I don't want to go into the history. Go to the Callahan House. It's amazing. And when we're talking about that history proclamation that we just made tonight, Longmont is a huge part of that history of Colorado. So we should all be proud. He said it. I have no idea how that goes. So seeing no one else on the mayor and council comments, I'm going to turn to the city manager comments.
No comments, Mayor, Council.
City attorney?
No comments, Mayor.
All right. It's been moved in second. It's been moved by Councilor McCoy, seconded by Councilor Hidalgo Faring that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Bye, Marcia.